So we'll call the meeting to order at 6:01. Let's see, I gotta figure out who's here.
Well, everybody's here right now except for Bob. And
Okay, so we have enough for him. So.
yeah, no, we have a quorum. We just don't have Doug either. So those are the two that are missing right now.
Doesn't appear we have any citizens on.
Nope.
Petitions or comments or concerns. All right, so next up is we'll look to have approval of the minutes.
I'll move the minutes of December 17, 2020.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Has everybody had a chance to read them at least and look through them?
Yes.
All right, so then I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes. We have that. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
Thank you.
sounds like the minutes have passed.
Oops, we got another attendee here. Oh, Sam. Here's Sam.
Oh, Sam's here.
Promote the panelist. Okay, Sam,
All right.
you're on.
Communications and reports. Anything from the permanent school building committee members?
We had an awesome tour last night,
Thank you.
and I was looking at the minutes, so I didn't see where we fixed the cafeteria tile and wherever else the tile was fixed, or at least I wasn't paying attention.
Well, it's just fixed this week.
So it was so fixed so well, we don't even know where it was. We didn't notice.
No,
So that's good.
I mean, yeah, since you brought that up, they did a really good job on that. The fix that they recommended, you know, it's not even noticeable, even if you know where it is. So we'll certainly keep an eye on it in case it becomes a warranty issue and keep track of it. But we do have a good idea where it is, and Tammy will be around so she can help us if we need to in the future. So that's okay.
Do we have pictures of any of the areas that may be in question?
There probably are, but they look completely different than what they did before. I mean, we could take some pictures now, but they look exactly like the rest of the floor. So it's there's no noticeable difference between what was repaired and what was there previously. I mean, obviously it's fixed, but what was there when we first laid it down. So
It's really good for documentation, though.
yeah, oh yeah.
It's documented. The locations are documented and called out. It's covered in Tammy's got it covered in a couple of different reports, as well as some email correspondence identifying what lines, what walls, and general areas. And I know she has photos too. So if there becomes a problem, we won't have a problem identifying it.
Good enough.
Okay.
All right.
So we have no invited consultants. So if you're ready, we just move on to the staff stuff.
Yeah, we can, whoever wants to go first. If we want the middle school, go for the middle school.
Yeah, I think we'll do that. We have unfinished business. We could do that also out of order if you don't mind. So what we should do is get Tammy can bring you up to speed on the condition of the building, the existing work that's going on. There's been some things finished. I might add that we've got a certificate of site plan compliance that's conditional. We have to come back in the spring, obviously, and look at trees that may be dead, plantings of grass that didn't take during the fall.
Right.
Those sorts of things. So we do have that. We do have an approval for the driveway. We had a temporary, we had a site plan modification that we had to file for the work along Route 1, which is on the planning folks list. Also, that's been completed. It looks really nice there. The bank is, it looks a lot more manageable than what we had there before, you know, for maintenance purposes, if you will. Paperwork wise, in that regard, we're in really pretty good shape, and we can talk about the other stuff later, but I'll let Tammy get going on where we are and where we're going, and just to let you know that. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
So talking about the middle school, so site work activities, as Rick explained, the fall seating is completed. We'll review the particular areas that were mentioned in the P&Z report in the spring of 2021. Trees and plantings are complete. The same thing for the plantings. We will monitor the ones that were in question, spring of 2021. The ADA bus loop at the north end, we installed 3 temporary bollards at the sidewalk to allow the faculty and students to utilize it on Monday. So they'll be able to use that. The line striping is completed. We're looking to get the 9 bollards the beginning of January, and those will be powder coated bollards, black. And then in February, towards the end of February, beginning of March, we'll get the permanent stainless steel bollards that will replace the temporary ones that we currently installed right now in March. So those will be completed in spring. As Rick mentioned, the Route 1 embankment is completed. It was completed as of yesterday. So that's done. Also for site work, the logos for the wayfinding signage, so those should be completed by the end of this week. As for the building work, we're substantially completed. We did receive the final CO over the holidays from the building official, so that was good news. And punch list status wise, we are 95% complete. There's probably a handful of items left, like 12 items that are left on the punch list to be completed. So we're looking.
So Tammy, do you have that uncompleted work list? That would be helpful to go through as we get through. We can do it now or through the closeout, but since you're talking about.
Oh, for the work to complete list?
Yeah, if you just pop that up real quick. I know we've already
Yeah, let me
talked
just
about
pull
some of
that
the
up really
things.
quick.
What Tammy's going to show you, we've been, O&G has been maintaining a work to complete list. Tammy, Brian, and I have been after them to make sure all the things that are required, that need to be done, that aren't purely punch list items are on that list. I wanted to show you that as part of the turnover information, but since we're talking about all the details now, we might as well show you the list and then go from there. I got to share something, right? Here. Do I need to hit share screen? Is that what
Nope. Can
it?
everyone see this list?
Yes, there it is. Got it, Tim.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So basically on the list, what we have left to complete is we have a meeting with PEMCO. Those are the thresholds that have been installed throughout the building. They're a steel threshold that we have some questions with in regard to the quality of the thresholds. The wood flooring, we reviewed the wood flooring. There was an area that was raised up. We did put a fan there a couple weeks ago before the holidays. O&G has been out there to monitor the moisture content, and it was at 8%. And from my understanding is that the floor had gone down.
Yep.
So we're going to be monitoring that as we go forward.
Well, we have closed it out. Brian and I expected it came in, so it's
okay.
So,
all right.
So we'll
Great.
close it. We'll just have to, Sam's, I think, aware of it. If not, we'll make sure he understands. It's a small portion outside the port lines at the very north end of the floor. And we'll make sure Sam's aware in case it becomes a warranty issue. But right now it looks good.
Okay, great. So I'll close that out for next week.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have Ryan's updated list, which is okay.
Okay. No problem. So the next item we have on is the Promethean Board. So we have completed the installation except for 2 rooms. The 2 rooms were room 177 and 184, and that's due to the shortage of the HDMI cables. And they also completed the testing of all the rooms. So I did receive an email yesterday from Keith, the assistant principal, stating that they have an issue in one of the rooms. So we're gonna, as soon as they come back to install those 2 cables, which we're looking at either this week or next week, and I'm gonna have them take a look at that 1 room. And I'm just waiting for the final testing reports to come back from ESC. As I was mentioning, the punch list items. So As of Tuesday, we have 54 items left to complete, 13 items left in dispute. And those are just items that the architect has put on the punch list and that the subcontractors are disputing. That's not their responsibility. So we're working with O&G to get those resolved.
We did close the next one too, Tammy.
Oh, you did? Okay, so I'll just skip right over that then.
Yeah, Brian and I. What there was a spandrel glass. There was a window at the very top of the building that is not spandrel like the other 2 or 3 floors, but they were done on the other couple floors to hide a brace, if you will. That's not up there on the 4th floor, so there was no reason to wait the 5 or 6 weeks and spend the additional money to replace that piece of glass because it served no purpose basically. So it's clear glass like the rest of the window. That we accepted that as the town, along with some visible, if you look very, very closely, lintels that have been coated with ABV, and that's not a problem either. Not noticeable, doesn't affect the use of the building at all.
Okay. The next item that we have on the list is the blue lights. So I was told that they will be completed by the end of this week. So I will follow up with Ryan tomorrow to see where they stand with that. The exterior building signage. So this is the Groton Middle School signage that's on top on each side of the school. So we're working on resolving that and with spacing as well as the structural integrity of it to make sure that it is installed properly. Let's see. So the roofing is completed. The coping is also completed, as well as the life safety tie downs. So those are also completed. We just have 2 roof ladders that need to be installed, and those should be completed by the end of this week. Okay, we already went over the special education driveway. So the next item on the list that we have is the Fitch High School handicap ramp. So they demoed the sidewalk, they did place topsoil, and then they're going to return in the spring to hydroseed the area.
And we did have, that was another site plan mod that was approved by the planning folks. So we're all good to go on that one.
Okay. The other item that we already talked about is the North Bank on Route 1. So that is completed already. I did mention the wayfinding signage. There's some trees that were installed by the generator and the transformer that pretty much fell over, so we can't replant them right now. So we're going to replant those in the spring.
They did stake them and put them upright, so we'll monitor them again in the spring and take a look at them.
Right. Yeah. And then the last item we have here, there's an area in between the softball field and the multi-purpose field where it's collecting some water. So we're having Richards, the subcontractor, go out there to take an as-built of the grading that is currently installed and compare it to what the design is. And we're going to compare those two. And then also, if it is to the design intent, we're going to get the engineer involved to reevaluate the grading in that area.
So one quick update from the meeting earlier today, Tammy, with O&G and Greg and Rick and myself. We believe they're going to actually go out there now and see if it is a silt sack that's actually causing some of that backup. We believe that they may have a silt sack in there that needs to be cleaned out or that's causing that ponding. So they're going to look at that for now.
Okay.
If it needs to be changed, they're going to change it, and then we'll continue doing what you said, which was monitor. But that's like a first step to try to get water to drain that may be backing up because of that.
Okay, great.
And it's also one of the areas that's on our plan and that we've sent to the planning folks where the grass isn't fully established yet. So that's another area for replanting in the spring. So we think that would help alleviate any problems with that area. Okay.
Okay, that's pretty much all I have
Okay.
for the middle school.
Okay, I'll add the information on the sign, the school sign. We did, we received the variance. We are moving and I think we talked about moving the sign for Sutton Park back next to the sidewalk that really goes into Sutton Park. So it turns out it's not a frontage sign. So we withdrew the variance request for 3 signs on the frontage. I have an email from the zoning officer telling us we could do that. So the site plan has been submitted to planning. They're doing an initial review right now, and we need to get put on the schedule for the P&Z commission. So as soon as we do that, we'll look at the sign, then we can go out for pricing and bidding if we have to do that, and get that put into place. The other sign for Sutton Park, we're waiting for that to come in. So if you've seen some of the new blue signs around town, you know, even out in front of our building is one, and the police station. That's what the sign for Sutton Park will look like. They've got a sign plan, if you will. The town has established a site plan through the planning department, so we'll follow that plan, and the sign will look like those others. Nice bright blue, should be very observable from the street and sidewalk, so it'll make a nice entryway. So I think if we want to, Dave, if we want to go on and do the unfinished business part, we could do that, or we could move on to the elementary school and come back, whatever you.
Yeah, I don't care. We can go to the unfinished
Okay.
and then go to the elementary school.
Yeah. Okay. What we've been working on is obviously the closeout. So the list you see is the one of the documents that may be attached to the letter, or certainly to you guys, to let you know where we stand with those final items that need to be completed. There are some still, like they say, some punch list items that need to be completed. I saw a light out at the parking garage, a couple of ceiling tiles, some a shower, for example, that had to be modified in the nurses suite because it wasn't properly ADA built. So we had to change the faucet and seat opposite sides, which will be done by the end of the week. So O&G is trying to get all their things closed out. And we're working on the change documents, if you will, or the turnover documents. There's nothing in any of the punch list items that would affect the turnover of the building and use by the school district. So, but we'll certainly keep it cut in on what those things are. We're Arcadis is helping us, and O&G look at the budgets, do the final change orders, do those sorts of things. That paperwork would be, the financial paperwork would probably be completed after the school's turned over, because it doesn't affect the turnover of the building, if you will. But we want to get into the queue with the state so we can get in line for the audit, if you will, which is probably a year or so down the road. So they may have to hire somebody to come in and help them with the audit or what have you. But I think we're in a good position right now to do the turnover, and I'll get whatever additional documentation and let you aware. So typically what the process is I'll draft a letter for you folks, and there'll be a letter that comes from us that tells you what all the various conditions are. You need to write send a letter to the council as a permanent school building committee certifying that it met the educational specifications and the code requirements, and other regulatory requirements, which we have a whole sheet of paperwork that shows all that stuff. And then there'll be a resolution that goes to the town council after that. After they receive your letter, there'll be a resolution, which we have a draft copy already, and we'll go to a council meeting, and they can then at that point approve the turnover to the Board of Education, and the Board of Ed will have to accept the building, and we'll go from there. And that will be that, and we can finish up whatever little work is left out there, if we don't get it all done before that time. But we're looking probably the end of January. I mean, I'm sorry, the end of February, toward mid to end February, depending on meeting schedules and work completions and all that stuff. So It's not critical at this time. We have the final CO, as Tammy said. So we're able to, and the schools are able to fully use the building at this point. So we'd be happy to, Tammy and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and we can go from there. She did submit her report. I think you got it late in the day. There's a change order log in there. What you may see a couple differences at the bottom of the change order log, because I wanted to separate out what percentage was actually affects the GMP, because that's our contract with O&G. And actually our budget for the school was 70 million, I think, $030, thousands of dollars. We're about 69,000 and change, right? 69 million and change. So we're under budget. We've, based on the contract, however, I think we're about like 3.9% change orders that are affecting the GMP value. So that GMP value is up a little bit, but it's still below what we originally had scheduled for a budget for that school. So we're really in pretty good condition, dollar wise. We'll get all those reports together when it's appropriate, bring those to you so you know where we stand financially. But as I said, it doesn't affect the turnover. So our concentration now is getting all the things done to get to the turnover, and then we'll be working along with the financial stuff alongside of that.
So when are we looking to basically turn the building or recommend to the town council?
Yep.
When are we looking to do that?
It'll be in February, early February, probably.
Okay. All right.
We want to make sure that we've got the work done that we need to get done, and I got to draft those letters up. So hopefully I can bring something to you at the next meeting on the 21st. Bring some of that draft information to you so you can take a look at it, and we can go from there. So you can either do that meeting, the next meeting, if you will. You know, there's no, like I said, there's no rush at this particular time, but we do want to get out of that building so we can concentrate on the other two.
Right. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Rick or Tim?
Rick, I do. Your numbers, I think I understand what you're saying on numbers at 69 million.
Yep.
It was 70. We're talking about an 86,900,000.
Right.
Of that, 70 million is into construction.
That's correct. Plus,
Okay.
plus there was
Other
like
money-
115,000 that was pre-construction.
Right.
Okay.
We still have what the referendum was basically on the 86.9.
Right.
Money's there, but only so much towards construction, and the other monies are put to FF&E and all the other.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to
You
understand.
know, there's town costs and those kind of things. So if you go to the 86 million, that other 16 million above the 70 million, it was for all the town costs, the bonding costs, all those other things that are Arcadis, the architect design, the LEP that we may have brought on site, the SES who's doing the commissioning, which we should mention, they're nearly finished with all the commissioning stuff, and we ran into them, Brian and I ran into them yesterday, and they say things are going very well, and they're just about completely done with the commissioning of the building. So, you know, all those other associated costs, my salary, for example, all come out of that other soft cost.
Oh, I thought you were free.
Well, it may be easy, but I'm not free.
So how much money do we have to play with about, since people have numbers confused?
Since we can look at that. We haven't delved, if you will, into the construction contingency portion, which is about $5 million plus or minus. We also, as you recall, there's that 4 million for property purchase.
Right, that was deducted.
Which the
from
finance director of finance is holding on to that in case there's additional bond costs, which I think we've covered most of the legal and the interest costs for the bond anticipation notes that we use for construction. So we probably have in the neighborhood of $5 million, if you will, that would be attached directly to this project.
And the only one I have right now, It was mentioned yesterday on the tour, and the problem, I guess, will be any more conversation at central office regarding the locks.
Right now, Sam and we have looked at a lock set for the elementary schools. We've asked for a sample to come in. So once that sample comes in, that can be evaluated. If that's satisfactory, we should probably recommend that we go with that set. But, you know, Sam did have a temporary solution, which, you know, if they're really worried about getting the doors locked from the inside, I would recommend they go forward with that temporary solution. And then we'll get the final, because it's going to be 6 weeks, 8 weeks out before we get the final lock sets. So in the interim, we ought to go with an interim solution there and go from there. So the conversation's going to go on. We need obviously to talk to the group, the school, the fire marshal, the principals, the teachers, the whatever, you know. So we'll have a whole group, us guys, too, the committee, and we'll come up with a recommendation once that other lock set comes in and we can evaluate it. Whether that works or not, then we'll I guess the discussion will carry on until we come up with the right solution.
Okay.
One request then, when central office and everybody else comes up with the lock set they want to work with,
Yeah,
will they bring it to us and show us?
we can certainly do that. I mean, yeah,
I
they
figure
won't
may
do that. We'll
smooth
probably
things
have
out
to.
a
We should
lot
do that.
quicker and easier.
I'm sorry.
It might make it a lot smoother and easier.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody sees
Oh,
it.
yeah. Well, once they're settled on a set, we can bring it in and display it and have a discussion on what happens with it and how it operates and that sort of thing. And the
That would be
pluses and
much
minuses.
appreciated, because I don't recall ever having a conversation or seeing those locks.
Right.
So
Okay.
the temporary solution obviously will have to happen, since we need to make sure those doors are locked. So
Yeah.
you're saying those 6 to 8 weeks, but what would remind me again though, Rick, I'm tired, I'm like, remind me again as far as what you said, as far as a signing off, because will that,
Well, what we ultimately want to do, since the superintendent runs a school district, we want their or her approval of what the final solution is. And what she says should go, and that should include all your folks' input and whatever. But there should be a recommendation that comes out on what the preferred or the best solution is, and we'll certainly make that recommendation. You know, so we'll be working with Sam and you folks and other folks in the school district. You know, Sam's lock guy has input to it too, you know, because he's got to maintain those locks.
Right.
So it'll be a fairly large discussion, but that's why I'm recommending that we should go forward and with the temporary thing, so people at least have some comfort level if they can do what they need to do. And if Sam's okay with that, I hadn't really talked to him about that. We did kind of mention it briefly when we talked earlier today, but.
Nominated Sam.
Good.
He was voluntold?
Indeed,
No.
indeed, sir.
Sam will get me later. That's okay.
Like home, I do what I'm told.
Oh, I know, Sam.
The only thing I have on the locks is anything that we decide to do or whatever we decide to do for a permanent fix on this, are we implementing that with the elementary schools? Or is that?
That's why I'm saying we're looking at the elementary school lock set first.
Okay.
That's the one that's coming in.
Okay,
So if it's suitable for the elementary schools, it ought to be suitable for the middle school. So
okay,
we'll take that, and if that lock set works, then we'll have to take it out, bring it over, show you how it works, and have that discussion, or go over to the school and look at it and have that discussion. You know, so
Sam will have
we haven't
that.
got that far yet.
Sam will have that lock set in a week and a half.
okay.
So, and if he,
yeah, that's great, Kelly, thank you.
I mean, the only place we have to install it right now is over at the middle school. We don't have any doors on the elementary schools yet, so.
Yeah.
Jamie, I want to clarify something for you, so you're not led down the wrong path here.
Sample.
Yeah, she's going to have the sample in a week and a half so we can look at it.
Yeah.
But the procurement time is 6 weeks. Just so everybody's clear. I don't want there to be. There's been enough confusion as it is, right? I don't want there to be any more confusion. So.
Yeah,
But at
so
least we'll be able to review it though
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Then you were thinking I'm gonna do 6
Yes.
weeks to just do a review and then.
No.
Okay, good. Thank you, Brian.
No, it's gonna be done next summer. Just want to make sure you're listening, that's all. So I have nothing else on the middle schools. If someone has some additional questions, we'd be happy to field those or what have you.
I have another question.
Okay.
Just an additional thing on the locks. Is there a lock in the system already that we are happy with and we can just copy those? So that's
Well, it all depends
That's all.
because they change models from year to year. They do whatever, they
Okay.
upgrade systems. You know, if we're going to a new lock, we're not gonna order old stock kind of stuff. We're gonna,
okay. I just,
Yeah.
I have the fire marshal.
know.
There is a state, some kind of state design specs and stuff like that. So we just make most people are going to be in the room. So we just need to make sure we follow that
Yeah,
up.
understand.
And then
Well,
next-
actually, the security plan is written by the Board of Education. And there is a recommended security stuff by the state, and
right.
the
Okay.
Board of Ed writes their own, and we actually had to provide it as part of our submissions to OSCGR.
Yeah.
So,
And anything that we do within the district, we always meet the fire marshal's requirements as a state requirement.
so the fire marshal, you all noticed, was with us the other day. He didn't like the temporary fix as a permanent fix. So, you know, that's another reason why we're needing to continue the discussion and come up with the right thing.
My second question is just driving by the softball fields and looking at the turf, the sod. It looks
Yeah.
like there's edges on it that might be lifted. I mean, I'm not right on it. So is there further work?
Well, we'll look at it if there's
that will be
issues
done in
with
the
it.
spring?
Yeah, if there's issues with it, they'll have to fix it in spring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, any of that stuff, any of the plants, any of the grasses, any of that stuff that there's an issue with will have to be dealt with
So that'll be
in the
just
planning
a
season. So,
blanket thing, including the turf on
Yep.
it.
right.
Okay, good.
Okay, I guess if you're ready, we'll go over to the elementary schools and start with Kelly here, and she can fill you in on the status of stuff. We did have, I might say it was a preamble, we did have a nice meeting today with the two principals, Jamie being one there at Thames River Magnet School, I have to get that right. And also had the future principal of the Mystic River Magnet School there, along with the superintendent. So that was a really good meeting. We were kind of walked through the plans. We had some discussion on a piece of FF&E that will be helpful to them in their ADA rooms, you know, the special ed kind of rooms. So we're working on that. And after this part is done, we'll talk a little bit about where we're going with the FF&E stuff, because I'm going to need some approvals out of the committee so we go to the Board of Ed at some point. So I'll let Kelly fill you in on the status of the work and where we stand with that stuff, and then we can come back and talk about those other things after.
Really quick, guys, Christy got booted out. Her computer is not letting her back in, so she's trying, but she's frustrated and is sorry. So just really, that's where she went.
All right, I will start with Thames River. We are almost done with our retaining walls on the site. You know, that's the site that's pretty hilly, so there's lots of retaining walls. We're almost done with those. Roofing will be done on area C by the end of this week. We had a couple weather delays on there. It was supposed to be done last week, but with the holidays and the weather, got pushed to end of this week. They have begun roofing areas A and B, which are the 1-story areas. Exterior work is pretty much it. They did some curbing this week just because we had some warm days, so they fit it in. Besides that, interior work is moving along. They're framing everywhere. Areas A, B, and C, they're framing. Almost done framing the entire building of area C, which is our 3-story wing. Just finishing up some things on the 3rd floor. Our drywall, our mold resistant drywall is going in as necessary. After this week, they'll be able to actually start putting in the regular sheetrock. Will be weather tight by the end of this week. Masonry is ongoing, so most of our interior walls are complete. For masonry, exterior masonry veneer is ongoing. We have our brick installed at area B at the entranceway. So it's not complete yet, but they're starting over there, wrapping around to the front of the building, which is the west wing or the west elevation. Moving from the brick, they'll move into the ground face veneer, which is that over there. It's that tan block or the gray block on the outside of the building. We have, I think we're still on target for our end of January dry-in date for the whole building. The end of January will be area B or area A. And then in 2 weeks, or in, no, sorry, end of next week, area B will be dried in. So as soon as that roof finishes up and then they build some temporary walls, will be dried in. MEP rough-ins are ongoing. They're cruising in area C, finishing up second floor, moving up to the third floor. Besides that, I think that's it for Thames River.
Yeah, if we just the second, we had talked to you about some overtime dollars before. You know, we've O&G had kind of set a goal, the maximum around 30,000. We haven't approached that goal yet, but the money that's being spent, they're increasing crew sizes. They're working on Saturdays, doing some stuff, and I think it's all been money well spent because we're catching up. We're still a couple weeks behind the other school, and maybe a little bit more in some areas, a little bit less than other areas, but we are whether it's June 30th or July 15th, we're certainly not at risk of not being able to open the school on time. So just to let you know that about that particular school.
Yeah, we'll plan on letting them work Saturdays until we.
Yeah, but it's not costing us a lot of money, and it is money well spent. You know, we wanted to make sure we were getting value added for that additional funding.
Yeah, like I think we're in the $30,000 range right now.
Yep. So any West Side or Thames River TRMS questions?
No safety concerns at Thames River, no COVID cases.
Good.
Any questions before I go to Mystic River? All right, Mystic River, I'll start with bad news. We have had 2 COVID cases there in the last 3 weeks. I don't think we've talked in 3 weeks or so. So we had one 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. They haven't returned to the site yet. And also we had one last week, which may have just been the flu, but we still took care of it as a COVID case. They're not allowed back for 2 weeks until they get a negative test. So that is happening at Mystic River. Site work is moving along. We are complete with our playscapes. They are absolutely beautiful. Mulch is down. We will revisit that in the springtime and even the summertime before school starts. So if we have to do any fixes there, we will, of course, lay down another layer of mulch. Besides that, they're going to maybe start some backstops over by the baseball fields if the weather permits. Outside of work, roofing is almost done. We're just being delayed in one little area on area A and B. Roof's probably 90% complete, but where we have our roof slab on decks, we're waiting for some core testing to come back before we cover that, just in case if anything goes wrong. But Tri-State, our testing agency, has told us that we are probably good to go, but we're just going to wait another couple of days until we get the final report. And then by the end of next week, roofing will be complete on the entire building. So moving in, we are completely dried in area C, our 3rd story wing, almost dried in A and B. They are projecting our dry-in date end of this week for area A, and then end of next week for area B. And then they'll be dried in.
Yeah, we also have what, windows coming in like the week after next? Is that what they said?
Yeah, storefronts should be arriving in the next week or 2.
Yeah. So we are moving along. That school is looking tremendous. You know, it's I've been telling people a story about my wife. She was asking whether Cutler was torn down yet. So I drove her by there and she was amazed that the building is where it is. And I said, you know, it's going to open and it's going to be done in June. And I said, what do you think I've been doing for the last year and a half or whatever? But it does look tremendous. It's a tremendous building, and they're moving right along and taking advantage of some things, areas that they can work as they are over at Thames River too. So is that all you have, Kelly? We can.
No, I have a little more.
Okay, keep going.
So our masonry walls are all complete besides our interior wall area in A and B. We're waiting on the rest of that ground face CMU to come in. So that's it for masonry. Besides, the exterior veneer is really moving along. I'm sure if you've driven by, you've seen it. We have lots of brick up, lots of exterior ground face CMU veneer. A, B, and C are all underway. You'll see that the entire 3-level wing is being fully scaffolded and tented. So that is being prepared with heat so they can continue scaffolding throughout or continue veneering outside the entire winter. And they're going to continue that on the other side. So the whole building will be wrapped to continue the masonry veneer. Interior framing is pretty much all done in all areas. Metal stud wise, they are installing drywall in area C since we are completely dried in, we're warm. We had the fire marshal out yesterday. He took a look at where all of our fire extinguisher locations were going to go. He signed off on that. And besides that, MEPs are probably 99% complete. We have approvals for in-wall rough-ins, and they're going to start closing in walls, insulating, and they're really moving along. And that's all I got.
So one thing I don't remember if we mentioned it. Well, we didn't mention it last meeting because it came up something new, and I'll let Brian fill in the details if he will. But there was a system. Instead of having a recirc system or a return system on the hot water in this building, somehow between the time we got the plans done and it went out for bid, there was a change made where they went to this heat trace, which is basically a piece of wire on each of the hot water pipes. Nobody can really tell me 100% what that actually does for us. We're looking at what they're doing. Brian had been out there on site. It looks like it'll help us by not doing it in some regards, but we're looking at potentially removing that because it may help us schedule wise. But if you want to fill in some of the details from Brian, explain it to a little bit, you I think do a better job with that stuff than I do sometimes. So
give it a whirl, Rick. I'll give it a whirl.
Okay.
So you know, Rick's spot on. This happened sometime in an addenda. It was an answer to some sort of question, right? So we're working on tracking that down. But the moral of the story is that the energy code requires that you maintain certain standards in regards to delivery of hot water and systems to sinks and the like. A typical or a more typical installation is you use some sort of a loop. It's where you use a bunch of pumps to recirc the hot water, right? It keeps the temperature up, it reduces energy. You guys probably know something about some of this stuff, but either way, so in both these schools they don't have that, and they have a due to the answer by the architect to the addenda, there is this heat trace system. We walked in the building, we saw it, we understood, we walked in, we looked at it. There's no way that this is a good idea long term. Sam will eventually kill someone if he has to try to chase out one of these circuits. So the moral of the story is you have wire that goes to every single device, and there's controllers and all kinds of things involved with that. So to simplify the system, to really make it better long term for the building, to save a ton of labor hours, we're working with the design team and the CMR to and some of the subcontractors actually to make some quick changes to this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to putting in a system that's more easily maintainable, that has a longer life cycle in the building, and that if there is a problem, you don't have to not only open all the ceilings, but cut open the walls and cut all the insulation off the pipes to be able to get to the wire to maintain it or to replace it. As you can imagine, that's a nightmare for the town, right?
Oh,
So we're trying to make this change right now, and it's sort of happening very quickly, and we are working diligently to get this done. By doing this, Rick mentioned, but in a short period of time, and there's some tight deadlines, only a couple days away, where people have to get some deliverables into us. But basically, once we identify the areas and we put the pumps, we identify where the pumps can go back in, solve a few logistical problems, but we'll actually be able to immediately close up walls instead of waiting all the time for all this wire to be put on. There'll be some areas which will be left open, which we may have to do some additional piping work. And so, you know, overall, it'll be, I think everybody believes it'll be a better system for the town overall. Just to address cost, and I know that's probably a concern, and we talk about cost often, as we should. There is going to be some cost associated with this, but there will be a lot of offset due to non-use of material, return of material, reduction in labor hours. We've already talked to the mechanical contractor about this. We actually had the mechanical contractor on one of our calls today to sort of work with the design team, as well as our other engineers and the rest of the team, to try to get this resolved. So that is basically, you know, the general idea is to create a better hot water system that's easily maintainable. You know, if a pump breaks, you remove the pump and you take it away and you put a new pump in place. You lose this wire someplace, it becomes very difficult due to the installation methodology itself. So that's the story. And if I wasn't clear, I'll try to answer better, or if there are any questions, I'll.
No, to add a little bit to what Brian said, we went back to drawings before the bid documents, and there was a system designed in the building that had a recirc for hot water. Mm-hmm. It may be a little more complicated than what we need, but they don't have to start with design from ground zero. Also, if we look at the middle school, the system we're talking about, which is more of a loop type system, would probably be more akin to what's installed in the middle school. So the first step we need to do is make a decision, say we're going from A to B, and then all the details follow. And the architect and their sub, as Brian said, is working on those details and will get them to us. So we don't fully know the cost implications. I expect there's going to be a lot of savings, as he said, on the labor side. You know, materials, if they haven't been ordered, won't be ordered. We may have some small restocking fees for other materials. And then the piping comes from the other. So hopefully the piping costs will be offset by all the other savings that we're going to accrue. So we're moving forward with that because we have to do it now. I mean, they're ready to close in the walls, and we don't want to delay that close in, and the amount of work. And Brian was there on one day when they're doing the training. They did 2 rooms in one day, and they had several people on site to do that. So if you could extend that over a period of time, maybe they do 3 rooms in one day eventually. But still, we're talking about a long time and delay of sheetrock and that sort of stuff.
All right. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that's smart business. But is there any way, I don't expect it anytime soon, but can you come up with a ballpark cost analysis for us?
Yeah, as soon as we get the information next week, we'll be able to.
One of these things, I've done all this. I mean, so I know it's hard to predict exactly how much it's going to save, all that, but you know, just so we have a ballpark, some type of a ballpark figure on, you know, where we're going to end up.
Yeah, as soon as we get a little more information from the MEP designer and the design team there, we should be able to come up with that back of the envelope ballpark figure and let you know that.
Yeah.
But potentially by the next meeting, we should have something that's firm, because it's,
you know, I think the thing to do is, you know, recognize that we might have an issue there and solving it by, you know, doing what we're doing now. That's just business wise. That's
and for example, if we look at the system and there's one fixture that's very remote, you know, we talked too about doing the potential on-demand kind of system. We have one up here for 3 sinks in the men's room. You know, you get hot water in about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's a small, very small unit, energy efficient kind of thing. So it's the system's likely to be a combination of things. It may be another hot water heater, for example, over at West Side on the 1-story section. But all that stuff is all up in the air right now, and we don't know much more than what we've told you. So you have to stick with us, and the attempt is to do the right thing, make it easy for life cycle costs on this thing, and then go forward with it, and we'll bring the information back to you.
Okay.
And I think that's the scope of that. If you have any questions on the elementary schools, please feel free.
No, the only thing I got is I mean, I now that I can't remember, is the buildings are all winterized now, or?
Well,
you know,
they're working on that. Kelly gave you some dates.
Yeah.
I think the Cutler ought to be closed in the whole end of this week?
Next
week?
week, end of next week.
Yeah, end of next week, that'll be totally closed in. It's probably a couple of weeks later for West Side or,
I think we got a
Thames
week
River.
and a half of favorable weather anyway.
well, yeah, the weather's been pretty good on our side, except for the one snowstorm, which
Huh.
delayed the roof a little bit, but that's Connecticut, so.
Yeah. No, anybody else got any questions on the elementary schools?
Kelly, when can we start a tour or site visits?
Well, we've talked about that, and I mean, Cutler is problematic because of the COVID stuff. We'd like to get you folks out there to take a look at it. It's liable to be onesie twosie kind of thing, but Kelly and I have discussed it briefly. We'll have to discuss that also with O&G and see what their druthers are, but we should be able to get back to you pretty soon. I know you guys need to get out there and take a look. I mean, we're at the condition where if you went to the middle school at this time and came back a week later, it would look like a completely different building. So we're kind of at that stage. So we'll look at that, Kevin, and get back to you as soon as we can.
Well, I figured sometime in February. I wasn't looking for like right away.
Right. Yeah, we have that on our list of stuff to do. We just got to figure out the best time.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind a tour, but to be honest, I'd rather get a handle on this COVID stuff and I'd rather that happen and not just for us, but keep the contractors and everybody working that project safe so that project can keep moving.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a difficult situation. We go to sites, O&G after them all the time to keep their masks on or whatever.
Yeah.
You always have those folks that comply and you always have those that don't. So it's a tough situation, and they're after them all the time, because when I go over there, I'm saying, hey, these guys, and then they're out chasing them around,
It's tough to work with that thing on, but
Yeah. Oh, I
and I
know.
appreciate the guys that make the effort to try and do it, and I feel for the guys that don't, I mean, I've been there too.
Right. Well, but what they're doing too is like we did at the middle school. So for example, over at Thames River, they're going to start sheetrock or I guess it's Cutler. Cutlers are starting on the 3rd floor. They're going to start on the 3rd floor. Then the next trade's going to follow in behind them. So they're trying to keep the trades, separate.
Right.
Not have a whole large group of folks working together, spread them out throughout the building, because it's large enough to do that in most cases. So instead of having large groups in any particular place, it's kind of a onesie twosie, whatever. But they still, still obviously come in contact with one another as they pass in the hallways.
Kelly, contractor wise, what are we looking at for numbers for people on site for both schools?
At Thames River, we're averaging mid 50s, and then we're up around 70 at Mystic River.
That's good.
We're just kind of waiting for Thames River to open up a little more. Right now, you get there and you're like kind of like squeezing through spaces, and it's just like, so they'll ramp up soon as they start opening up areas and they don't have.
They're probably looking to put on big time closer to spring as they get more stuff up, when they start doing some more sheetrocking.
Yeah, they'll probably ramp up, I'd say, in the next month or so. You'll probably have almost double the crew sizes once they start finishes. Because you'll have basically almost 2 projects. You'll have the area C, which is like finishes, and then area A and B will be mechanical still going on. So it'll be a lot going on.
Okay.
With all the work going on, and especially at Thames, any problem or complaints from the neighbors, especially the one who's right next to the building?
It was, so Thames River, I had complaints a while back. And the woman has my number, Deb. She hasn't called me since, so she's good. She was a little nervous about what the final install was with the trees and the fence next to her house, and she didn't really want to see the school. So I sent her a plan. I talked her through it, and she's happy. She had a concern with dust a while back as well, but we've taken care of those concerns. And then Mystic River, we had the recent complaint, which was working hours. We had guys going in on Saturday, starting their lull at 6:15 a.m. And she called me directly after that. So she called me around 6:20 a.m. on a Saturday and said, "Kelly, WTF?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry." So I talked to her.
Thames, I was wondering about the woman's caddy, how much she was gonna keep it there.
No. So really, I think we have a pretty good rapport with the community. You know, they used to come in and talk to Matt on the Cutler side of the Thames Mystic River site, and they've talked to Kelly, and folks come in. We used to have a couple of fellows that used to come in and kind of wander around the site. We were able to finally to get those out. And I don't know if you recall, there was a guy that came in before we demolished the building and would come in and sit on the stoop on the north side of the building, so with his dog or whatever. But by and large, the community's been really pretty supportive, and we haven't received a lot of complaints, if you will. And, you know, we did have a request, which was good for the city because they had some different hours and they wanted to work Saturday. And we said, these are the hours that you can work on Saturday in the city. So we do have also those slight differences between the authorities having jurisdiction on one side versus the other. But Kelly's been able to navigate through that minefield pretty well.
Well, I was wondering, and on the Brandegee area, where a lot of the people will be asking about maybe their fence lines in the back, because you get those kids going through, and some areas are actually have been cut through on the fence line.
Well, so there's fence all around. I mean, there's existing fence is still there all around the entire site. So we've heard nothing about that. I know the parks folks have been talking about trying to open that trail, if you will, that goes out the back through the town property and up towards
Behind me,
yeah, towards Kolnaski and up that direction. But I've heard nothing recently about that.
Yeah, that really doesn't even reach all the way up there. As soon as you
No. There's also something I should bring up at this point too, that if you recall, a long time ago, we had a conversation on the Cutler side at the time, that there's a stream in the back. They wanted to build a bridge across that stream, which would allow pedestrian traffic to come in from Judson Avenue side and that sort of thing, which kids will probably use that too, or could. The rec department was having trouble coming up with funding. I told them we could wait until we see where we stand with change order stuff, and potentially I may bring that to you. It was $20,000-$30,000 time amount, but that's something that wouldn't have to be done till next spring anyway, so we can know exactly where we stand financially, and if it's viable and they're still willing to do that, we may ask the committee to go ahead and approve that since it's on the site.
All right.
So we're trying to be good neighbors too, you know, so.
Oh, yeah.
So just a quick thing for me, if, you know, when we're talking about these tours, and I know Kelly's going to work on it and all that, and I think there's a couple of you that really probably want to get out there, and that's great. It is end of the day, I'm just thinking contractors are out of there, you know, at
3.
Right. So 3:30. So if we did a 1 or 2 person thing at 4 o'clock and we could keep good distance, and then you guys could still see the building, maybe we have to do a couple of those. I mean, we obviously want you to, I know Rick does, and the rest of the team wants you to get out there and see it. I mean, you know, it's a great thing that's happening in the town, so, and the city respectively. But But is that the type of thing we're talking about? I mean, is that what we should shoot for, or?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I don't think a group thing is advisable right now,
Agreed.
to be honest. I think if it's you know, schedule it where you could do it at, you know, 4 o'clock for whoever's available, you know, schedule 2 or 3 people at a time, whatever's comfortable. You know, I mean, I know what an empty building looks like. A bunch of steel posts and a little bit of sheetrock up here and there and a lot of dust.
Well, you're spot on the money there, my friend.
Been there, done that, you know?
I just don't want people to feel left out, and I want to
No.
do something that makes people feel comfortable. And
I would be more interested in once springtime hits, April, May, when we've got, you know, quite a lot of the building closed up. And now you know, other people can actually see what the rooms are gonna look like.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you go into a room, it's got a doorway opening and a bunch of steel studs sitting there and wires going down through. You really don't get a feel of what the room is gonna look like until you get some sheetrock in and, you know, and stuff like that.
Well,
No,
I
I
like
understand,
seeing wires, and I like seeing wires and walking around the site. I would come at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever.
Mike's a sailor, he's a pipe guy, you know?
hey, that's why I was asking, right? I mean, we want to do what's good for everybody here. So,
But yeah, but we
If
can
we
work
can do
through
it
that,
when
and
the
we'll make sure
staff-
that ONG's on board with it too, because
Right.
they're.
I don't
controlling
have
the
a
site.
problem, but the only problem we do have late at this time, if we're talking like 4:30 and that, is the
Lighting.
darkness.
Oh, yeah. No, it would be sometime 3:30-ish or thereabouts,
Yeah.
probably after.
Hey, under the cover of darkness, you'd be surprised how good that building looks.
Oh, it does. It was great. It was over there the other day. I thought it was done.
all right, so that gives us a little bit of direction, right?
Yeah.
We'll get some stuff shook out here, and then we can talk about it. You know, when getting in the building, once you're in the building, the lighting is not, you know, the temporary lights and the OSHA requirements are going to kick in. We'll be good. But I agree with you that transition between either the trailer or the lot and the space can be, you know, treacherous. So we want to make sure everybody is
Well,
safe.
so much isn't just the building. I mean, my point of view coming into look is some of the building and seeing some of the site itself.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fine.
So I have like 2 or 3 times by completion,
right.
right? Either change.
And the site is tremendous over at West Side. The retaining wall that they put in along the back, this thing must be 600-700 feet long if it's an inch. I mean,
Oh, the
it's
site
a
looks so
beautiful
much
wall,
bigger
and I
right
watched them
now.
do some of the work, and they did a great job on it, putting it
Hey,
up. But it's tremendous.
This time of year, the mud is frozen, right, Tammy?
Well,
Yeah.
I think they were
Depends.
probably done with that one, but
No, sir.
Yeah.
I can verify it from a day ago. It is
Oh,
not
I
frozen.
remember me, Tammy, and Bob went, we were 6 inches in mud.
Yep. For sure.
well, they actually put some stone over at Cutler where there's a walkway, so you don't have to walk in the mud.
Yeah.
I guess he had to arm wrestle the super over there had to arm wrestle with the contractor to get that stone put in. You know, so.
All I know, Rick, if they people from the GGG saw the site now compared to 2004,
Yeah,
they would have had what they wanted to do and won.
right.
Because there's so much
Well-
in there now.
The town is, just a kind of a point of interest, are applying for our tree community thing again. So if you look at what we're doing over at the Mystic River site, we're planting 80 some odd trees. We probably took down 10. We took it down a little more at the middle school, but we are planting over 140 or something like that at least
Mhm.
over there. And we're planting 80 some at West Side, Thames River too. So, you know, if any of those folks want to complain about trees, we'll pull out the drawings and show them all the stuff we're planting. Yeah, they're youngins at this time, but they'll grow.
Very well.
Mhm.
All right, does anybody have anything else on the elementary schools? I think the next order is, we did the unfinished business.
Yep.
I don't see, any new business. Anybody have anything that we think we need to bring up next meeting? I mean, the ongoing thing is,
So, I should tell you, FF&E, we're gonna wanna, almost forgot. FF&E, we've been working with Brian and Kelly trying to get the architect trying to get the FF&E budget together. Potentially, we could have that package ready for you guys to approve or not at the next meeting. We've asked the architect to provide it to us next week. They're working on it. We want a completed application before we do that. So we'd have to come to you folks on the 21st, then we'd have to go to the Board of Ed and get them to approve it. And then we'd have to get the chair, Bob, who sent me a text saying he can't make it tonight, but get him to sign it, get the superintendent to sign it, get our ADA guy to sign it, and all those other folks, which
right,
is a
Yeah.
challenge in itself. And then we have dates scheduled on the 3rd and 4th of February to go to OSCGR for that approval. So we have to take the plans, we have to take the checklist, we have to take all these other documents, supporting documentation with us. So we want the architect to provide that to us so we have time to review it and we can discuss it with you.
well, then at least by the 21st, or we'll have Brandon put it on the agenda,
Yeah, we will. We'll put it on the agenda.
update.
And then the technology is separated out like we did with the middle school. So the technology will lag the FF&E by 3 or 4 weeks, probably, which is okay.
Yeah,
So we'll get the one taken care of so we can get that stuff working. Also, we have Tom Beebe, who helped with the move stuff over at the middle school. He's starting to put his stuff together, get an agenda. Some of the folks on our tour mentioned about getting that process started, which we want to do a little bit earlier here. So probably in the next couple of weeks, we may have our first move meeting. But this is going to be a real challenge because instead of 2 into 1, it's 3 into 2. So how do you balance that? So we're not only going to have floors and room numbers, but we're going to have a separate color for one school versus the other school. So it's going to be an interesting move scenario. We do have an advantage, however, because we talked today with Jamie and the superintendent about the media center, for example. We have the luxury of not having to have those buildings empty right away because we're not going to tear them down. So we do have a little bit of flexibility at the end game as far as moving some of the materials and stuff.
oh, yeah.
So we're looking forward to that, but we got to get that process started so we can get the FF&E on order. Tammy can tell you it takes a while to get all that stuff. We got to go through the whole ordering process and first come up with the budget, which we would bring to you too, along with the plans for your approval. So I think that's wraps it up.
You're spot on the money. I mean, so we can expect if everything goes according to plan that you'll see Perkins probably.
And we'll bring the architect to do his presentation on that stuff. We're not going to try and do his talking. We'll let him talk and then you can ask him questions.
Can we have some of that stuff sent to us on paper at least so we can see it?
That's why we're asking for it next week, so we can send some of it at least a few days before the meeting, so you have a chance to look at some of the stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying hard because we want to hold these dates at OSCGR. We don't want to lose any ground.
Right.
And we'll do better getting the reports and the change order logs to you next time around. With the holidays there, we just started ramping up here at the first of the week, so you'll see that stuff earlier toward the end of the month before the next meeting in February. So
Well, Tammy went away for a month, right?
well, yeah.
Just 2 weeks, and then
Kevin, tell me about it, right?
I was keeping Brian busy for those 2
All
weeks.
the extra work.
just 2 weeks, and then I'm home for 2 weeks because I'm waiting for the results so I can go back.
Why do you think she's smiling here? I've never seen
Exactly. Got her fuzzy slippers on right now.
well, I'm sure.
Actually, I do.
Come on, lift the foot up, show everybody.
There you go.
Okay. I think that's all we have from the staff perspective.
Any other questions from any of the committee members?
I'm good.
If that's it, we'll wrap this meeting up and we'll meet again in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all for showing up.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good
Have a
night.
good
Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right,
And I'll hit the end block here. End.
see you, Rick.
Okay, Sam, we'll talk. Always, or continuously, I guess.